Imagine waking up every morning feeling trapped, not by walls, but by invisible chains forged from rules, expectations, and systems designed to keep the real power out of your hands. You work hard, strategize, lead, and push boundaries, yet somewhere deep inside, there's this gnawing sensation that the game is rigged, that the true power isn't where you thought it was. You see the headlines, the debates, the backroom deals, and it all feels hollow because decisions affecting markets, lives, and futures seem tethered to politics more than to reason, more than to merit. But what if today the real shift isn't just in governments or the usual suspects? What if hedge funds, the very engines that fuel markets, are quietly becoming the new kings behind the curtain of political power, the new brokers of influence that nobody dares to talk about but everyone feels? It's not just a theory anymore, it's a cold, brutal reality, and understanding it could be the difference between surviving another cycle or reigning supreme in the New World Order. For years, hedge funds were boxed in as financial beasts, creatures of numbers, risk, and return. But behind those spreadsheets, there's a pulsating organism evolving fast. These are not just pools of capital anymore. They are powerhouses aligning strategy with influence, wealth with political sway, trading not just assets but ideas, narratives, and policy shifts. The problem, though, is this. Millions of professionals, investors, leaders like you find themselves caught in the crossfire, witnessing vast fortunes reshuffle but with little control over the political currents that shape markets. Ever felt frustrated watching legislation suddenly change the game overnight? Regulations to tighten, enforcement to ramp up, or bailouts to flood sectors you've sworn off? That's the invisible hand of hedge fund-driven politics slipping through the fingers of traditional power systems, and it's growing stronger every second. But here's the truth no one admits. This tidal wave of influence doesn't have to be a threat to your freedom or success. It can be your weapon, your pathway to becoming not just a player, but a leader rewriting the code. You're not powerless if you know where to look, who to align with, and how to wield your unique edge. The secret is recognizing that the real fight isn't just about chasing extraction from systems built to bottle you in, it's about transcending them. Think about this deeply. Hedge funds are no longer just investors. They are orchestrators of future realities, shaping policies to serve their visions, crafting economic narratives, and steering societal priorities. Your challenge is learning to navigate this treacherously shifting terrain without losing yourself, or worse, being steamrolled by invisible forces while you stay on the sidelines. The biggest barrier to this isn't knowledge, it's isolation. Most professionals are trained to chase signals in dampened systems, investing time and energy in incrementalism, hoping small moves add up to change. Meanwhile, hedge funds pool their resources with surgical precision, marry influence with policy, and create effects that ripple far beyond earnings reports. The truth is simple. The world's traditional infrastructure wasn't built for exceptional minds hungry for real transformation. It's a factory set to produce mediocrity, comfort, and risk aversion. You see the cracks already, bureaucracies stiffening, innovation stalling, voices of real change sidelined. The hedge fund political brokers fill that void not by accident but through focus, in networks of rare leaders working together, turning capital into irreversible power. How can someone on the outside break into that circle of influence without selling their soul or losing sight of their true mission? The answer lies in a mindset shift that's as urgent as it is liberating. Being sovereign, owning your will as your most potent weapon, means refusing to be boxed in by labels, titles, or conformist definitions of success. Ask yourself, who controls the story about your potential? The system with its comfortable myths, or you, the rare individual ready to burn the borrowed scripts and write an uncharted future? That's the first spark. Then, moves to critical questioning. Don't accept the truths handed down like gospel. Every assumption about markets, governments, and power is just a construct, prone to collapse if enough minds dare to see beyond. From there comes transformation, redefining your reality by acting in ways no one else dares, to build alliances that are real, raw, and fiercely complementary. This is no casual feat. It demands patience, persistence, and most importantly, selectivity. The power doesn't come from the crowd, but from aligning with the few who burn as fiercely as you do. Think of hedge funds' political influence as a network of dominoes precisely placed to fall exactly where they want. Your task is to join that pattern, not by mimicking noise or following the herd, but by forging your unique signal that resonates with the rare minds who hold keys to power corridors. This isn't about making life easier, it's about making it truly yours. Hedge funds became power brokers by building autonomous networks, spaces where individual brilliance meets aligned action. You must build your own version of this, a personal alliance of visionaries who will amplify your capacity to influence and navigate the system's ever-changing rules. And what about those invisible chains of false freedom? The world promises independence but packages it as conformity. It offers equality but rewards the average. It comforts but kills the fire inside. Hedging your bets on old conventions means permanent subservience to hidden agendas and slow decay. But liberation is possible. Not in overthrowing everything violently, not in rejecting structure outright, but in mastering the hidden codes behind it and assembling a sphere where exceptional talents, strategic thinkers, and relentless innovators join forces to shape outcomes on unprecedented scale. Here's the practical breakthrough. Study their moves closely. Hedge funds are now top-tier political brokers because they invest in relationships just as aggressively as they do in markets. Lobbying, policy advisory groups, think tanks, these once distant fields have become their playgrounds. They manipulate narratives to create favorable regulatory environments, indirectly steering legislation that benefits their portfolios, but also changes entire industry landscapes. Seeing this clearly, you can't afford to remain a passive spectator. Instead, adopt the tools, habits, and networks that allow you to engage at that level. Build relationships with key influencers, become indispensable by offering unique insights, and cultivate a reputation that bridges vision with execution. The days of isolated genius are over. The future belongs to those who connect their brilliance with others, those who leverage collective power while maintaining individual sovereignty. Doubt is the enemy here. The system thrives on your hesitation, on your waiting for perfect conditions, on your clinging to old loyalties that no longer serve. The movement of hedge funds becoming political power brokers is not a passing trend. It's a tectonic shift demanding action now. For those who resist or hesitate, the system will simply sweep past and leave them on the sidelines. But for those ready to burn, to unlearn, to question everything, the path opens to a future where influence is translated into freedom, where capital becomes a tool for global transformation, and where leadership is redefined not by inherited status, but by relentless becoming. Imagine yourself plugged into this new network, not as a pawn, but as a spark feeding the fire of change. Your mission isn't diminishing the system, but transcending its limits, wielding the very forces that threaten you to carve out space for greater self-expression and impact. This is no utopia. It's a practical, brutal game of power and will. And hedge funds are leading the charge. They have learned to blur lines between markets and politics, finance and influence, money and narrative. They use the instruments of the system not just to survive, but to dictate its rules. The question remains, will you watch as this power consolidates, or will you become one of the rare few who understand how to channel it, who refuse to be crushed or marginalized? This moment demands ferocity, clarity, and connection. Dig into your edge, be ruthless about casting off illusions, and seek out the few whose fire matches yours. Create that autonomous network where your misaligned brilliance becomes aligned power. Don't let anyone fool you. Real freedom never came with comfort or consensus. It's forged in struggle, in defiance of the status quo, in the refusal to conform to the borrowed life. Hedge funds are becoming new political power brokers. Take that insight not as a threat, but as a call to arms. Because in this new landscape, only the rare transform, and only the transformative survive. The status quo is dying. Will you burn with it or rise beyond it?